Okay, my friends, we are back on this 22IM ice machine. Now the customer called me yesterday and said, "Where's my ice maker?" And I said, "Well, I thought you went away for the winter. I was going to do it over the winter." She says, "Well, my husband needs his ice for his scotch." I says, "Oh, okay. Well, it's 20 degrees here in the Northeast. It's January 22nd, 22, and I can't take it out to wash it down. So I'm going to start to take it apart so you can see how we do that. And that'll be our first step." All right, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect this door and push this in. And then this is spring loaded. Careful not to lose these bearings, which go in here like this. And we'll take the door off, and then after we get this thing apart, we'll start to look and see if these parts are still available. I don't know if this door seal is available, even though after 35 years it's in pretty good shape. I could probably soak it in some solution and clean it up a bit. So we'll do that. Let me get a screwdriver to take out this rack. Don't forget, these are spring loaded. So you can see the springs right in there. I haven't worked on one of these machines and probably, I've worked on this machine before to come in and service it. I think she had a problem with the water, a water leak. One of the common complaints in this machine were water leaks, and it's because they use plastic tubing. Today they're using plastic tubing, but they use PEX tubing, which is a lot stronger and withstand more heat. So be careful you don't lose those little bearings that just fell out. Okay, so they were okay. Let's see if we can unhook those. You notice these pieces of board here are to protect it from getting scratched up. Okay, so now we can pull this out like so. Get a hold of all these bearings. There's one in here, and one goes there. Another one goes here. Now we have an extra one in here. Figured out where that goes. So rather than risk the chance of losing these, I'm just going to take them all out and put these all in the container so we don't lose anything. Okay, this thing's a little rusted up. I might have, oh, here's where that other bearing goes, over here. So I might have one of these units brand new that's sitting around in my shop for 25 years because it's kind of rusted. Okay, now we'll take the door off, and we can do that right here. Actually, let me see, I think there's a better way to take that off. Yep, there's another bearing. Yep, underneath here. You know, I'm wearing video glasses, so sometimes you'll see the camera move really quickly. It's because, I've said this many times before in my other videos, I work with both hands, and I usually work alone. So, I'm gonna Okay, put that there. Okay, let's stand it back up. All right, so now we're going to take this panel off here. So you can see the components inside. And behind this panel is the timer for the automatic defrost, thermostat. We have two switches here, one for the fan right here, and one that controls the ice maker, so that when you open up the door, the fan shuts off, and if it's in a run cycle, and the ice maker shuts off so it doesn't dump cubes. All right, so there, and you notice this thermostat has a capillary tube on it, which goes through the back and comes up and hooks up into the freezer compartment. So we're going to check and see if that thermostat's still available. The timer I'm not worried about, because this is a common timer that we can get anywhere as, you know, substitute. And then we have all these Molex fittings that unplug everything. It just comes right out. All right, so we'll do that. And then I think the next thing we'll do is take out this ice maker. This thing feels a little sloppy, so there's probably some screws missing up on the top. Yep, that's what I thought. Here's a plug. The plug comes out. And there's a screw. Well, here's your thermostat cap tube. Comes right up here at the top of the ice maker. So this capillary tube comes out, goes through the back underneath, and comes up and comes in here and senses the temperature just above the cubes. Now, I got to get a screwdriver that's going to fit in here. Let's see. Like I said before in the initial introduction, this is one of my favorite ice machines. Look at this ice maker. This has been replaced. This ice maker has been replaced. This is a newer ice maker. You can tell, look at the difference in the color between the ice maker and the cover. This is a module type ice maker, and you can get these replacements from Whirlpool. Same machine. The only difference is, you know, the arms are always a little different. Anyway, I don't know if we're going to change that because it looks pretty new. And save her some money. All right, so now here's your fill tube that supplies your water. We will take this cover off to expose the evaporator coil. Go. That's the evaporator coil. Here's your defrost heater right here, your limit switch. There's a drain heater in here too. See, it goes down there. And we'll take that off and remove the fan. Oh. Last thing I want to do is strip that. You know, the Sub-Zero uses stainless steel screws on all their products. And stainless steel is great, it doesn't rust, but they're softer and they strip easily. So make sure you have the right size screwdriver. Disconnect this Molex connector. There's your fan. Looks like the original fan motor. Damn. I mean, really, this machine is 35 years old. Still running. That says a lot about Sub-Zero quality. All right, so all this Mortite, this putty here is all dry. We'll fix that when we put it back together. Seal that all off. Here's your limit switch here, your defrost termination switch, which hooks up to the suction line. This is what they call an accumulator. It looks like a filter dryer, but it's an accumulator that accumulates excessive or extra liquid. So it boils off and flashes off before it gets down to the compressor to save the compressor. So what we do when we wash this thing down, we'll wash this all out. I don't see any need for replacing anything that's not broken, even though she said she wanted a complete rebuild. That would probably cost her more than a new machine, but problem is we can't get this machine. Okay, first thing we're going to do is go to my website, try to see if we can get these parts are available. All right, so here is the the door seal, number 38, 3210290. 3210290 for the door seal. Thermostat is 124. Let's see. Here it is. 3012440. Compressor. It's number 102. 311. Oh, it's an AE 1360. AE 1360. That's a Tecumseh number. What else are we going to need here? Evaporator Fan Motor is number 91. 420-0170. That's still a good number. I actually don't even have that on here. Evap motor. 420-0170. Condenser Fan Motor. Right here is 111. 315-0280. Pretty sure I have that motor also, or a substitute. And the compressor is 102. We got that. Let's see, what else do we need? Oh, the water valve. Here's the water valve here. So the valve is 108. 309-0020. Okay, so now we're going to look up these parts. Door seal, 321-0290. Obsolete. Product is inactive, not available. So the door seal is not available. You have to condenser fan motor, 315-0280. Obsolete. That's going to break down to a new number, 420-0740. Water valve, 309-0020. obsolete. 420, 1440. 420, 1440. Let's make sure that's available. 420, 1440. There it is. That's available. And Evaporator Fan Motor I know is available, 420-0170. All right, so the thermostat's still available. The compressor is an AE 1360, obsolete. Let's see, 701-4067. There it is. Process port, compressor, relay starter, filter dryer. Still available. It's an EM. That's a Embraco compressor, 650 BTUs, R12. And we could probably use a 5th horsepower 700 BTU compressor in here, low temp. We'll figure that out. Okay, so in order to disconnect the top cabinet part from the base, there are 4 screws, one in each corner, and they are right underneath here. And once we disconnect that, we'll be able to disconnect. However, because the thermostat capillary tube, actually, if you can see it up there, there's a piece of 1/4-inch copper tubing, and it comes out right here, goes through the wall, and that's our thermostat. And so we can pull this out like this. Okay, we're going to do that. I'm going to get a better screwdriver to take this apart and see where that we wind up. Okay, so we removed the 4 screws here holding the cabinet to the base. So that will loosen this up. You can see it's disconnected, but it's still attached. Of course, you've got your sealed system lines, your suction and discharge. We're going to have to do some really good cleaning and repair. Okay, here's your water line, which normally breaks. I've changed this water line twice on this refrigerator in the past 20 years. I'm not sure about the ice maker. I have no record of changing that ice maker. I could have, but my records only start in January of '93, and I was in business 20 years before that, so she could be in the old files. This water valve's been replaced before. I can tell it's a newer style. Still working. We'll put a new one in there. All right, so now we'll disconnect. We'll put new water lines in here. We're going to wash this down. We'll probably sandblast some of these parts. The next thing to do is to drain the Freon out so I can disconnect the suction and discharge lines. Okay, so I also pulled the capillary tube out and disconnected this panel, so keep that on the side. And also, since the screws are out of the cabinet, in order to remove this cabinet, we have to disconnect the, there's 2 heater loop, that go up into the cabinet. You see these two pieces of copper tubing here? That's what goes around the perimeter of the door that keeps moisture from forming. It's part of the condenser, so they come out over here. There's a joint here. I can unsweat this, and then this other tube goes to the dryer. So we're going to change the dryer anyway. So if we disconnect these two tubes, that'll disconnect the cabinet from the top. And then, of course, little brackets and wire clamps. There's another Molex connector here. This is probably for the drain heater. So then you can get a look in here and see. Let's prop this up. Here's the condenser fan motor. And it's amazing that this thing is 35 years old and still running. Here's the drain, which goes into the drain pan. That tubing's all dry rotted. Also the foam around the suction discharge, it's called a heat exchanger. This is all dry rotted. We'll have to replace that. And look, this is actually, the heat exchanger is no good, because look, the capillary tube has come undone from the suction line. This is soldered on here. So now we're going to have to change the heat exchanger too. Let's go back online and see if that's available, because if it's not, then we're going to have to find a way to fix this. So down here, that's it right there. It's soldered all the way up. And when the capillary tube becomes unconnected or disconnected from the suction line, you're going to get a problem with your sealed system performance, because wow, it's all the way up. We're not going to touch anything right now, because in the worst case scenario we might have to repair this and resolder it, but let's just see if there's a heat exchanger available. Okay, next step here, we're going to remove the Freon from the system. There's a process port here in the front of the machine, which is great, so you don't have to pull it out if you want to check the pressure. But right now we're in the Northeast. It's frigid cold outside. It's too cold to take this thing outside and wash it down. All my water lines are shut off for the winter, but we jack this up a little bit, put some blocks underneath here to raise it. We're going to pull out the Freon, and then we're going to remove the compressor and see if we can get it all cleaned up that way. Okay, so we'll open up our valve right there. This valve, we're going to put the Freon into this charging column. Okay, we'll let that run until it's empty, and then we'll get to the next step. Okay, we are back and we are down close to 30. Close our valve. Now we are free to open up the system, remove the compressor. Let's find a way to clean this thing up, because you can see it's pretty dirty in there. Okay, be back. Okay, so we pulled out 5 ounces of R12, and I believe this unit takes 8.5. So it's low on Freon, and as I said previously, the heat exchanger has come apart and it's not available anymore, so we have to find a way to fix this. And once we do, then we'll wrap it up in some foam insulation after we clean it, and that should be suffice. Okay, now we've got all the Freon out. Let it sit overnight. Pressure's kind of balanced out, so we're going to disconnect the suction line hose here. This is a process port that comes all the way through into the back. It makes it easy to check into the so the next thing we're going to do, in order to separate the bottom from the top, the cabinet from the base, we have to start disconnecting things. Now this connector right here is for the drain heater, I believe. You can just disconnect that. Then we've got a power cord clamp here, and then you've got these wires that go up to the top, to the fan and the heater and all that, and they're connected through these connectors right here, these Molex connectors. So in order to take the Molex connectors out, get a needle nose pliers and you squeeze these tabs in, and like that, push it through, and then we have another one here. And you know, these things are very, very old and brittle. Getting them out without damaging might be a challenge. Okay, we'll work on that. Okay, so we got all these harness connectors out, and now right now there's a clamp right here that's holding with a P-clamp. So we got to take this out. Okay, so we got the P-clamp off, and there's also a ground wire right here that we disconnected. So now we can, let me see, this is disconnected. We just have to disconnect this P-clamp for this power line. Everything's rusted and brittle, so it's going to be a problem. But if we can disconnect the cabinet from the base, then I could do a better job and paint it and get it all cleaned up nicely. All right, so we're going to put that screw back in there for now. All right, so that's that. So the wires disconnected here. Okay, this is disconnected here, and I believe that's it. Drain heater's disconnected. The drain tube is attached there. So now this is the wire coming out. That's for the water valve. We have to now disconnect our heat exchanger so we can fix that, and also we'll cut out the dryer and unsweat this condenser line and just pick the whole thing up. Okay, so now time to unsweat these lines. You have a little MC tank here. I mean, I could cut them, but I'd rather unsweat them. Okay, that's the suction line. And we have another joint right here. Always keep an eye on the tip of the torch and the flame. You don't want to burn anything. Once the tubing starts glowing red, okay, that's disconnected, so we have one more line. This is your condenser line. It comes out of the condenser, goes in through the heater loop. I mean the tubing that goes around the perimeter of the door. So this other line right here, we can unsweat this dryer. And the top should come off. That's it. That takes care of the top. Now we should be able to separate it. Okay, just lifted it right off. Now you can see inside. And I'll be able to wash this all down, remove the compressor, put the new compressor in here. Now I can see all the numbers on the compressor to make sure we put the right one in. Condenser fan motor, we'll pull that out, we'll put a new motor in there, paint this all up, clean it, and then here's the top. So this will allow me to better wash this down and clean this up and fix this heat exchanger right here. This is going to be a bit of a project to do that, but it'll be easier for me to do it when it's laying down like that. So, all right, so let me get some things cleaned up and we'll be back. Okay, now we got this baby up on the bench and we're going to try to fix this heat exchanger. I put this piece of aluminum angle on here to protect this plastic tubing and the wiring when I use the torch. We're going to use this little Bernzomatic. We don't really need a lot of heat. I'm going to use just regular silver burring solder. And some paste flux. The first thing we're going to do is clean it, and then I bought these, I've had these for a long time, these aluminum clothespins that I bought. I think I got these on eBay at one time, and I use them as heat sinks. But in this case, we're going to put the capillary tube back onto the suction line where it originally was, like that. Put these little clamps on there, and then solder it on, and then work our way down until we get all the way down to the end. Okay? Okay, so here's progress we're making on this heat exchanger. As you can see, I've soldered it back together, so I'll show you the technique, how I do it. And I'm using this kind of flux. This is an acid flux, stay clean. And I'm using this brush. I've already sanded it down, cleaned it up with the, I'm using, this is silver burring solder. And just a little butane here, propane. You don't really need a lot of heat. Okay. That's basically how I do it. And then we'll just work our way down until we're completely down to the end. And the only reason why I'm doing this is because I can't get a new heat exchanger. So this is the only way to fix it. Okay, we are finished fixing this heat exchanger. It's all soldered back on. You can see it. That's how you fix a heat exchanger. So this probably will conclude part 1 of this project. And as soon as the weather gets a little warmer, we'll be able to take this thing outside and wash it down and clean everything out here, and then we'll start putting it back together. First I want to maybe sandblast this if I can fit it in my cabinet. Clean it up, paint it, and start to put it back together. See you next time.